All right. How's everybody doing?
Morning.
There you go. Good. We got two guys awake.
Matt, LeGarrette Blount seems to kind of come gift wrapped with Super Bowl rings. What does his experience bring to you? Has he raised the bar in some fashion? I mean, having a guy like that of that caliber here, what does he bring to your team?
Yeah, I think in general, asking what LeGarrette brings, which is a good question. I would say in general, from that standpoint, I think a guy that's experienced. You know, he's been in a couple different programs, so he can really adapt pretty quickly to different structures, different schemes. Obviously, a physical presence that he runs the ball with a good aggressiveness, a good nature of trying to get the ball vertical into the defense, and with a good run attitude. Let's call it from that standpoint. But he really just does a great job. I mean, he's a great teammate. You know, he works extremely hard. He really cares. He cares about winning. He cares about competition, which is great, which obviously you can just keep pushing everything every single day as far as that's concerned to get better, which is what we're trying to do. Certainly a guy for me personally that I have, I'm very familiar with. He's familiar with me and kind of, the style of just intensity that we ask for every single day, which I know he can obviously deliver on that from that standpoint. So he's really done everything I've asked from that, and we're just trying to get better as a team. But from an overall teammate and player on the field, all that stuff, it's at a high level. So.
Building on that a little bit, Todd Bowles yesterday called your backfield rotation a four-headed monster. You talked earlier this offseason about liking matchup possibilities in your backfield, and different guys could be. You've got Blunt with the power, and then you got three dual threat guys. Do you like the way that's developed in creating, I guess, mismatch opportunities for you heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our backfield, I think that was one of the things we try to do is get as much competition as possible. Even guys with Zach Zenner and Dwayne Washington. I thought we really were able to come through camp with some good competition there, and obviously very difficult decisions to have to make coming out of camp. I like where we're at from that standpoint, and I think all those guys do things really well. And they're a little bit different, each one of them, which is good for us because it gives us a little bit of a variance that we can use them all with, as opposed to just having four of the same guys. Because then it doesn't really affect the defense as much when you put them out there. So certainly from that standpoint, we'll try to put as much pressure on the defense as we can with those guys when they're out there, and put them in positions where we hope the matchup is good from that standpoint. So we think that's hopefully going to be a strong point for us. We'll obviously see when we get into the game, but obviously Coach Bowles is pretty on top of it there, so I'm sure he's got a good plan.
When the decision to cut Settle, he was a starter last year, and at least for part of camp, seemed like he was running pretty high up in your rotation.
Sure.
What went the decision to?
Yeah, I think again with the roster stuff, we've really, we've moved on from all those decisions. We got the guys that are on the roster right now. We're trying to get ready for the Jets, and that's really kind of where our focus is. I think competition in camp was good, and unfortunately we can't keep everybody, and we try to do the best that we can. But we're always going to continue to try to turn the roster over and try to make as much competition as possible out there. But right now we're just really focused on the Jets.
What did Romeo give you then that Anthony wasn't giving you?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's a direct comparison of one versus the other. I'll just speak on Romeo's behalf. I think, the opportunity to get a look at a guy that has some good length, has a good pad level, plays strong. We got a good look at him here, obviously when we had a chance to work with those guys. So, a guy that maybe obviously could do a couple of different things for us from a multiple level position. So we're going to get a chance to look at him here for a little bit.
One more thing about the running back rotation. How do you avoid you being predictable? For example, Theo's who are going to throw the ball. Yeah. Someone else who are going to run it. And the opposite side of that, do you look for that as a defensive coach to see if there's predictability in an opponent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things as a defensive coach you're really trying to identify. Is there any predictability with the players that are out there on the field? And I think, again, those guys do a great job of working on the other side of the ball to make sure that, it's not predictable. It's not something that easy where, you can just define a run-pass key or run-pass tendency based on the personnel that's out on the field. So certainly something we're conscious about and making sure that we don't get stuck in those. And the good thing about, I would say, with our backfield, I don't feel like, those guys either do one or the other. I think that they do both very well, and that's what I think hopefully puts a little bit more of a bind on the defense when you can, threaten them with both.
You mentioned the length of Romeo, and we heard you mention that with some of the other guys you brought in with Eli and Marquise. How important is that attribute for your edge defenders?
Yeah, I think for us, it's certainly something that's an advantage if they use it. From that standpoint, doesn't mean that they have to have length. I've coached other players that are all different body types, and different abilities and levels and things like that. Those guys that do play with good length and have, good leverage, sometimes at the line of scrimmage create more separation, and they're able to kind of see into the backfield a little bit better when they can do that. Those offensive linemen are pretty big, so when they're just, down on top of you real tight, it's hard to see around them. So if you can create that separation and that space, gives you a little bit more vision, maybe to see the play, see the ball carrier, and be able to have a chance to come off and make a play.
In terms of game planning, how do you avoid overloading guys week to week, and how do you know when too much is too much? I guess?
Sure. Good question. I mean, probably in the end, you don't really know until after the game, unfortunately. But you try to do a good job of gauge your players and how they're handling the week. And obviously, there's a constant communication with the players to say, are we good on this? Do you think we need more? Do we need to cut back? Do we need to scale back from that standpoint? I would say it's always the biggest challenge early in the season, because you're kind of just getting into that mode really for the first time right now. And, obviously with the Jets, there's a lot that they can do coming into this first game on all three phases, Obviously, Coach Bowles, they do a great job on defense, mixing everything up there as far as that's concerned. Casey with the front, you're going to get a bunch of different looks there. Bates, obviously, the offensive system, we know that that's going to have a bunch of different looks that we haven't seen before. So you got to be careful that you're not too specific about some things where the adjustments just become too hard and you can't really handle it in the game. So it's a build as you go through the week. You try to build one day on top of another, and hopefully when you get to the end of the week, you feel like your game plan's in a good spot rolling into the game. But you do a pretty good self-assessment here when it gets to either 2 days out or a day out before the game, and say, okay, hey, can we just put some of these plays on the back burner and just make sure we're really concentrating on the ones that we feel the strongest about.
Matt, I had two questions about their running, both your run defense, the running game. I guess they obviously have two backs who maybe don't get a lot of pub, but they're both have been pretty successful. I just want your impressions on that. And then Sylvester Williams for you, what makes him a good run defender inside?
Sure. I'll go in reverse order here a little bit. I think with Sly, I think one of the things that's been really great is just his ability to kind of buy in and to get our let's call it techniques down right away. A guy that really is strong at the point of attack. He plays with a good pad level, a good strike, a good punch. He's hard to move off the line of scrimmage and has just enough explosive quickness where, it just gives enough of a threat to the offensive lineman where they can't just, think he's going to be in one spot. He can move for a big guy. So I think from that standpoint, it's all been really good. Kind of development for him fitting into some of the things that we're doing. So it's just, his leadership on top of that, his ability to, take those young guys and really explain to them what we're trying to do, and his understanding of what we do has been really at a high level. So it's all been very positive from that standpoint. I would say with the run games for the Jets, obviously Powell, a tremendous player, obviously very explosive guy that can get the edge, guy that can cut back, very dangerous.